All right, well, I think I'll start by grouping everyone together and welcoming you all to this meeting for the Rockville Metro Station Visioning and Concept Development Project. This is the second visioning workshop that we had. We met a week ago on Tuesday evening and had our first discussion. I think it was a really great discussion. We want to thank everyone who participated in that first meeting, and thank you all for logging on a Saturday morning, which looks like it's going to be a very beautiful morning. So as was the last meeting, we can assure you that the consultants were very dedicated to our ending time. So we appreciate that. So we'll be able to get you off and into this beautiful day. But thank you for joining us this morning. I have the pleasure of introducing the mayor. My name is Andrea Gillis. I'm with the Planning and Development Services Department with the city. I'm also joined within our department by Clark Larson, who's been the liaison for this project. He's been really involved with the WMATA. We want to thank WMATA and the consultant team for the work that they've been doing on this project and their dedication to the engagement piece and portion with the city. It's really been a great experience so far. But without further ado, I want to introduce the mayor of our city, Mayor Bridget Newton, to give us a welcome and open up this meeting. So thank you very much. And thank you, Mayor Newton, for being here this morning.
Thanks, Andrea, and thanks to all of you for joining us today. Andrea is correct. The Tuesday visioning session was really strong. I was very impressed with all of the ideas that came out, and I'm sure there will be many, many more today. This is an opportunity for the City of Rockville to really imagine what we'd like for our downtown and support WMATA in their thinking about redevelopment, protect neighborhoods and communities, pedestrians, create a safer, more pleasant experience for people going to the Metro and those coming to our great city. So thank you all so very much. Bring your best and biggest ideas and let's see what we can come up with. Happy Saturday. And a special thank you to Martin and Steve Jeffrey from WMATA. Martin is with Sasaki, and just thanks to the consultants for giving the City of Rockville this opportunity. We are very appreciative.
Excellent. Thank you, Mayor. And good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us virtually this morning. Hopefully we're getting to a place where we can start to do these types of meetings in person again soon, but for now we remain virtual. I'm Stephen Riley. I'm with HRNA Advisors. As the Mayor and Andrea mentioned, I'm joined by my colleagues at Sasaki and VHB. HRNA specializes in economic development and real estate advisory. VHB is focused on transportation, and Sasaki on urban design. Together, we make up the consultant team, and we're supporting WMATA on this study to develop a vision and concepts for the future of the Rockville Station area. We're really excited to be supporting WMATA with this work. Rockville Station is obviously a really critical asset for the City of Rockville, and there's a lot of opportunities we think about visioning and the future of the station area. Go ahead and move to the next page. As part of the study, we're going to be taking into account transportation functions, obviously everything that exists on the site today when we think about metro, bus, but also thinking about commuter rail, future plans around bus rapid transit, as well as pedestrian connectivity to the station, bicycle connectivity. So really all modes of transit as you think about this as a center of movement around Rockville and the region. We're also going to be thinking about the potential for economic development. Is there opportunity for new housing, retail, office space, and how might that fit into the sort of broader fabric of Rockville? And then lastly, thinking about just general improvements to the station area. How do we think about connectivity? How do we think about placemaking and just making this a gateway for the City of Rockville? Move to the next page. So our team has worked with WMATA on station planning at a number of stations around the region. And as we do in all circumstances, in particular, I think around the efforts in Rockville, the first thing we want to make sure we're doing is establishing a process to get public input. That's really the purpose for us being here today as we're starting this study, is to make sure that we are gathering input, understanding you all's goals, aspirations for the future of the station area. Based on what we heard during our first visioning workshop last week, as well as the meeting today, our team will then go back and develop 3 concept options. And for each of those, we'll evaluate the various features of them, thinking about their merits as it relates to transportation, real estate, placemaking, financial costs. And based on that evaluation, we'll then recommend a concept for WMATA to continue advancing in partnership with the City of Rockville and Montgomery County.
Next slide.
And just in terms of project schedule and where we are now, I mentioned this is really the beginning of our study and the first point in which we're wanting to make sure we're getting input before moving forward with the other scope items. So we are conducting these first 2 visioning workshops based on the input and feedback that we get today. We'll have a presentation with the mayor and city council within the next few weeks to really summarize what we heard and how that's informing our direction going forward. We'll then, again, as I mentioned, take that, develop the concepts. There'll be a second opportunity for public input once the concepts are developed through a review workshop that we'll have later toward the end of the summer, early fall. We'll then do a similar review presentation to mayor and council before issuing a final report. And with that, I'll pass it over to Martin to talk through some of the goals for today and guide us from here.
Thanks so much, Stephen, and welcome to everybody. Again, thank you for joining us on a Saturday morning, and we will do our very best to promptly end on time at 11:30 this morning. And welcome and thank you to the mayor for joining us as well for this second community workshop for the Rockville Metro Station. So today, I was going to say tonight, but this morning I'll say, we're going to basically walk through an introduction to the site to make sure that everyone's very familiar with the goals of the project, as well as the sort of the physical area of the site itself. We're going to collect observations from you all in note-taking form in one of our exercises for this evening. We really want to sort of get not only your understanding of the site, but to understand sort of the complexity of a lot of the different mobility modes that are coming to the station, as well as access to the station by foot, by bike, by other means as well. We will look at some goals for the overall study, identify and prioritize those goals, and those goals will help us then as we move into the next phases that Stephen outlined for coming up with the concept designs for the development, the station itself. So some of the ground rules for this evening. For today, I keep saying, everyone will be muted except when we are in our breakout rooms. If you do have some questions along the way, you can chat those questions to Jeffrey Levy from Sasaki, and he will pass those questions on to me, and we will make sure that those are answered. We ask that folks be respectful when you are in the breakout rooms. Listen and learn from other people's thoughts, provide your own. And remember that we want to make sure that we hear from everyone. So I ask the moderators to make sure you call on everyone in the room to make sure they're sharing their thoughts. Any follow-up questions can go to Clark at the city. The email is here. That'll be provided again at the end of this presentation. And any updates can be found on the city's website, noted on the bottom. And that will also come up at the end of the meeting as well for future updates on the overall information. So a little bit of table setting in terms of the area that we're looking at. This is a land use plan, which is to say the uses of buildings are color coded as per planning categories. And this really sort of shows us the 2 parcels in the very center surrounding the metro station there. Outlined in red are the parcels that we're mostly focused on here, owned by WMATA, and looking for some development scenario going into the future. So again, with the land use colors, the light yellow represents single family homes, which we know are certainly in the East Rockville neighborhood, as well as to the west. And that really makes up a large part of the fabric of Rockville. A little bit more densely, we get some other multi-unit housing closer to downtown Rockville here, and then a mix of commercial as well as then your public and institutional from the courthouse and other pieces that are indicated in blue. We've also put on this plan a 5-minute walk isochrone, which is to say when you're moving along the streets, that's about how far you can get in 5 minutes from the station area itself. The outermost black line shows that 10-minute walk, so just a little bit farther. But those traditionally are considered transit-oriented development. You'll hear from Daryl in just a minute about how we think about transit-oriented development, or TOD, but typically that is development within a 5 or 10-minute walk of a major transportation hub. We also know that Rockville has been changing in the last 40 to 50 years. A lot of the single family stock surrounding the station is older, let's say pre-1984. It is the most, the oldest pieces, and you have been building out the downtown. So of course, the areas just to the north of downtown Rockville built just within the last 30 years. And development continues apace with opportunities for the future as well. So we're densifying the downtown and perhaps looking for a better connection from that downtown area, which you've invested in, to the station itself, knowing that there are challenges for pedestrians, for bikes, even for cars and buses as they move to and through the site itself. Some of those images of the site as well, as you all know, in the upper left-hand corner, that parking lot, which is east of Rockville Station for commuter parking and kiss and ride there, sort of creating that buffer between the neighborhood, but that's one of the potential development parcels. The tunnel itself, we know, which can be dark at times, also sort of connecting both east and west underneath the station. And then the bridge, which is currently closed for repairs, the pedestrian bridge, which we want to hear your comments about that as well. And then also the staircase, which leads over to Montgomery Avenue and to the pedestrian bridge. So just some sort of general pictures so that we remember what the site looks like more broadly. Two longitudinal views of the station area, both on the west side and then to Rockville Pike or 355 and that pedestrian bridge, quite a far distance to get from one side to the other. But all sorts of transportation things are happening here in this one really sort of critical place around the station itself. So I'm going to pass this over to Daryl, who's going to walk us through some of the specific transportation context here and that transit-oriented development. And Daryl, just let me know when you want to go to the next slide and I'll forward those for you.
Okay, thanks, Martin. So thank you all for having me join you today. First, we want to talk a little bit about what transit-oriented development is. Martin mentioned that briefly, but it's really about, a compact development that's at human scale. And as Martin mentioned, think of it as you can get to lots of places walking within about 5 minutes. So there's a mix of uses, there's lots of different activities and things to do in that area, and connecting, easy walks to multiple transportation choices, be it rail, be it some sort of bus mode or other transit, and as well as microtransit today. And the picture on the screen that you're seeing right now is at the Clarendon Station entrance over in Arlington. But as you can imagine, when you have all this diverse uses, it takes a lot of public-private coordination. It's not just the public side or the private side. The two have to work together to pull this off and make it successful. On the next slide. So I'm going to go through all the different transportation elements that make up the Rockville Station site. And as you probably know, there are a number of them. So the first one, of course, that comes to mind is the fact that it is a Metrorail station. It is a very busy station. You're going to see the 2018 boardings down at the bottom there, but we've got Metrorail, MARC, Metrobus, and Ride On. And so between all of those, it's about 13,000 people boarding one of these modes every day. The challenge is, of course, we've got the Metrorail and the CSX lines there. So those tracks sort of split the site in half. So you've got things going on the west side and the east side. And that makes it challenging if you're trying to get from one side or the other to hit the other transportation modes. But there are opportunities because unlike some places, we have station access from both sides. So we're not limited to just one side or the other. The next slide, please. So one of the most visible things, and you saw this in the images, and the most visible part of the pedestrian infrastructure is the pedestrian bridge itself. As you can see, the walk access at 37% is the largest or the greatest means of reaching the site. But it's challenging, right? Because it is an intimidated pedestrian environment. This is not a place where things are compact, things are spread out. Maryland 355 is a very physical as well as a psychological barrier. You know, if you were at street level and you're looking across it, you can kind of figure, seeing all that traffic going by, it's challenging to think about crossing that. So the solution was putting this bridge. And you'll see on the slide, it talks about a circuitous routing, which makes it underutilized. And when we say circuitous, it's not just in terms of going, you know, straight across, but it's the fact that you have to go up and down and up again to access the bridge when you're on the station side. And then of course, there's the stairs once you get across into Rockville Town Center. But there are a lot of opportunities here too. In terms of reconfiguring and right sizing some of the station components, we can certainly make that pedestrian experience a lot more comfortable and welcoming. And certainly with all of the momentum going on in Town Center, it certainly represents opportunities for that improved pedestrian connection. Next slide. Then there's bike access. And when we think about the challenges on bike access, it sort of comes as no surprise that it's the smallest mode of access to the site at only 1%. First, think of, you know, there are bike facilities on the west side of Maryland 355, but otherwise there's very limited connectivity, as you can kind of see. It's an intimidating environment with Maryland 355. And Park, there's just a lot of traffic going on, and it's difficult to roll around. The pedestrian bridge also prohibits bikes and scooters, et cetera. And I should mention, you know, between this slide and the pedestrian slide, if you think about it, there's also a lot of challenges for people that have disabilities. So, you know, persons with disabilities, these challenges are just multiplied in order to get in and out of the site and connect between modes. However, it's not all bad news. There's a lot of opportunities. A third of all the park and ride customers actually live within the bike shed of about 2 miles. And there is a very large population within that bike shed. So there's a lot of potential for growing the use of bike with some improved connections. Next slide. Then there is the commuter rail and intercity rail component with MARC and Amtrak. They do represent 9% of the access into the site, so one of the larger modes. There's several challenges of the facility. One is the single access point for the inbound or to Washington, D.C. side of the platform. You have to go through into the tunnel, and so it's a long walk, and you kind of see it in the orange when the trains pull further down to get to where the actual train is. There's limited branding and wayfinding. So if you're trying to find the train, that can be somewhat challenging with the way the signage is today. And because the tracks are shared with freight trains, it makes the platform access all the more complicated. So one of the things you notice is, well, when on Metro, I can just walk straight up from the platform onto the train. When you're on the MARC side, you have to go up and down stairs on the cars in order to get on and off. So it slows things down. There are a lot of opportunities with commuter rail. There's conversations of even of run-through service, or basically you're taking a MARC train across Washington, D.C., across the Potomac and into Virginia, continuing into the Virginia Railway Express lines that operate today. Next slide. So then we have the bus side. Bus is, again, one of the larger modes, 22%. So, certainly is one of the key elements of the site. It's a bit challenging because there are actually 2 bus loops. There's not just one. So there's one on the west side and the one on the east side. So getting between the 2, if you're trying to transfer buses, can be a bit of a challenge. Certainly creating the appropriate wayfinding to do that because of the distance, and the buses aren't in line of sight. And anyone who's run for a bus connection knows if you can't see if it's there, it makes it all the more challenging of, can I make it or not? The west side loop is also very constrained. So there's a lot of activity going on there without a lot of space. And so we frequently see buses backing and queuing up in the lane itself and actually out onto Church Street approaching into 355. But all of this activity is an opportunity. So there's great connectivity to get around the area by bus. And there are new bus rapid transit corridors planned to use the facility. They'll give us a lot more higher quality bus service, a lot more frequent service, and faster service. Next slide. So then we move into the interface with cars, and we've got the Kiss and Ride facility. So you can see Kiss and Ride makes up 12% of the access to the site. It is relatively underutilized. So a lot of times you can go by the Kiss and Ride lanes and not see a lot of activity. Again, it's split. It's between, there's a Kiss and Ride facility on both the east and west sides, which means the west side's got a lot of conflicts because it's interfacing with the bus traffic. And again, it's a very constrained site along with 355, being sort of pushed in between 355 and the rail lines. And so that split facility as well provides some sort of wayfinding challenges. If you've ever been, I've done this myself, where you come to Rockville and I had my wife picking me up, and it sort of explain which side you're coming in on can be a bit of a challenge. I'll meet you at the Kiss and Ride. Well, there isn't one. There's two. There are opportunities. A consolidated right-sized facility could really improve the customer experience, ease some of that confusion, and more efficiently use some of the space that's available. In the next slide. So then we move into the park and ride, and you can see in the blue shaded area, the park and ride lot certainly takes up a lot of land within the site area. So, that's probably the first thing that should jump out at you. Again, 19% of people are using the park and ride, so right behind bus. So it is a driver of traffic to Metro. The east side location, if you've ever come out of this lot, you know this in the evenings, it leads to a good amount of congestion on Park Road. Train comes in, everybody gets off, gets into their cars and tries to get onto Park. So a little bit of a challenge there. And then there are opportunities that structured parking, moving into more of a garage type facility would free up an awful lot of space that could be used for other uses. And next slide. All right, so just a last view of all the transportation uses. So again, you see the dominance of the park and ride facility, but you also see, in the yellow with the Kiss and Ride, the red with the bus, how things are spanning both sides of the site on the east and west sides. And that's all of our transportation elements.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Daryl. So as noted, many different modes of transportation converging and coming together and crisscrossing here at the Rockville station. So this is a section through the site. We wanted to represent some of the vertical challenges currently with the site itself. So if we start all the way over at Monroe Street to the west side, we know that there is an elevator as well as a stair that takes you up to the level of the pedestrian bridge. You sort of move in the direction of the east up through that pedestrian bridge and cross Maryland 355 there. It's relatively long cross through there. You're elevated above the traffic when the bridge is functioning. And then also going across the service road, Kiss and Ride, and the bus pickup and drop off before getting to the station itself. I think this slide, when you look at the station itself, really highlights some of those vertical challenges that can be challenging for anybody from an ADA accessibility standpoint, as well as for anyone with a stroller, a baby carriage, or a bicycle who needs to sort of jump in the elevators to go up and down or carry those strollers and bikes up and down some of those steps to get access to this really rich transportation network, both the MARC, Amtrak, and Metro, of course. So you can see all those arrows going up and down, and those represent some of those challenges to get to the station itself. Over on the east side, We get to the East Rockville neighborhood, where eventually it transitions to some of those single-family homes across South Stone Street Avenue there, past the pretty large Rockville Station parking lot. So looking at all of those together in that one section that takes you from east to west, it's a pretty good distance and full of some challenges. So we want to hear from you about those challenges at the station today, what you think might be improved, and what some of the issues are as we move into our first exercise. So that first exercise tonight will be as follows. Today will be as follows. So this will be about 20 minutes, and we really want to take this opportunity to hear from you in smaller groups. In just a minute, Jeff from Sasaki is going to put us into small groups. Each of those groups will have a moderator and a note taker. So nobody has to worry about taking notes. We'll do that for you. So I will be the moderator for one of the groups. I'll be joined by several others here on the call. And basically, we do want to hear from you, your thoughts about the station, and whether that is on a day-to-day basis, whether there's issues of safety or signage or access or visibility, just general comfort, anything from your lived experience, which is really valuable as we begin to think about the future for the station. At the end of our 20 minutes, Jeff will return us to the room and we'll recap what some of the various groups and those topics were for this morning's session. So if your screen goes dark for a couple seconds, that's okay as we move back and forth through the rooms. We did it successfully on May 4th. I think we'll be fine for this morning, and we will begin to move into those groups. We go from here, Jeff? So just remind all the moderators to share your screen because we will be taking those notes and folks need to see the notes being written down. So here we go into our first group, and our moderators will help move that discussion forward.
All right, it'll just take 1 second.
Thank you. How are we doing, Jeff? Is everyone back in the main room?
I believe so.
Okay, thank you so much. That was excellent. We had a really good turnout. We had really good conversations generally. So what you can see now is basically the comments that came from my group that we recorded as people sort of walked through. We put them on little sticky notes, and we have those here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go through each of the groups just to highlight some of those comments that were made. And in our group that we had a great discussion, we sort of talked about access specifically for the Americana housing apartments, which is great, and sort of how to get folks to the station itself. We also heard about the specific access to the buses. Jonathan helped us understand his way that he uses the buses currently and how that's changed in the past year and the challenges that have come with that change. Andrea helped us out to understand sort of the importance of signage and the potential for moving, and Virginia made some comments on that as well about the opportunities for art, as well as sort of the opportunities for economic development, both on the east side and the west side, but in particular on the east side. That some of the safety issues might be helped by having more active uses on the east side there. And Farzan really helped us to understand sort of some of the challenges for pedestrians moving from Monroe Place and then moving from Park Road, sort of the diagonal cut-throughs on the site that are needed to be made. I think Mercy helped us out to understand a little bit of the climate comfort challenges, the cold in the winter and the heat in the summer, and try to make that feel a little bit more comfortable as well. And then we also really wanted to understand the potential, the mayor sort of pointed out, for Maryland 355 and what it's like to cross that. And could we think about coming from Monroe Place, getting to the station itself, if there are ways to enhance that overall environment. Lighting was mentioned, as well as potentially even extension of the platform itself to begin to rethink how the station can better serve the communities around it. So we're going to go to our next group, which had the blue sticky notes. And I don't know whose group that was, so if they could help me. There you go, Ethan, thanks.
Yep, this was our group. So I think to summarize, a number of folks really encouraged the city and the team to really think big here. And we discussed decking over 355, even the tracks, and really thinking about air rights development above some of these more auto-oriented uses as a way to potentially accomplish a number of goals and address issues. And some of the things that were brought up relative to doing some air rights development or decking over some of these roads or tracks, were framed as creating opportunities to create a real destination around the transit station, a place where you might be able to have concerts or farmers markets, something that would be seen as a real attractant and a nice addition to downtown Rockville. But also, thinking about some of the more, practical ways about, how the station gets used. Decking over could make it a lot easier for folks to get to the station and use the station from a transit perspective by reducing the numbers of ups and downs that you have to go through to get to the tracks. And it could also potentially make it easier for some of the cyclists and pedestrians to get to the station. And another potential benefit is that it could cover some of the kind of kiss and ride areas and make those more fourth season. And I think, that's kind of the gist of what we talked about. But, just to summarize, I think, folks were interested in really thinking of this as a big and a long-term opportunity for the station area.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Ethan. That's great to hear about some potential big changes that could come to the station area. We'll go to the next board, our yellow group with really big sticky notes. Very clear, great.
Yes, we got lots of really great comments.
Excellent.
I think one of the themes that was sort of consistent in what we heard in our group was related to safety, but in a number of different contexts sort of around the station area. So I think first thinking about the station itself and how you're accessing it, whether there's potential to have additional access points into the station. Also, around the site, so looking at the parking lot and sort of lighting and safety issues related to that, how that could be improved or enhanced. Bicycle safety, thinking about the sort of the lack of bike infrastructure that allows you to get to the station easily. There was an idea around potentially trying to connect the Millennium Trail to more directly to the station itself, to provide more direct connection sort of off street. Also safety related to Rockville Pike. And I think this opened up a broader discussion around sort of general accessibility to the site, particularly with regard to sort of ADA accessibility, but really just general connectivity and being able to traverse Rockville Pike in a safe way. Obviously, the pedestrian bridge is closed right now, and so there's questions around when that will reopen, whether there's a need for additional pedestrian connections across Rockville Pike, but really thinking about how we can improve that pedestrian experience as you're moving through there. And then I think that the last point I'll raise that came up was just related to sort of wayfinding and signage, particularly outside of the station, and being able to find the pedestrian bridge, find the elevator. Unless you're really familiar with the area, it's hard to necessarily know where you're going and how to get around to access different transportation functions.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Stephen. That's great. Okay, we'll go to our next one. The pink notes here.
Thanks, Martin.
Okay.
Feel free to zoom in. We went super small on our stickies. So our group, the main theme of our group was around safety and accessibility to the station, as well as using the station to get across Rockville Pike. And one of the things that came up was that the bridge is really well utilized as a means of accessing the station, crossing Rockville Pike, and appreciated, as well as also at times being a more direct point of access to cross east-west than going up and trying to cross at grade. And what we heard is that the bridge is well utilized in spite of some inconveniences, including elevators not always being sort of as well maintained as they might be, or the challenges of getting a bike up. So expressions of interest to see convenience to the access of a elevated crossing improved. Additionally, commentary on general the quality and sort of safety of bike infrastructure in the area, that being an area for improvement. And then on the topic of crossing at grade, acknowledgement of potential improvements to be made at some of these intersections. But one sort of astute comment about there being a difference between safety as sort of on a technical level and as defined by engineering standards versus sort of stress levels and pedestrian comfort. And in order for people to make a decision to actually utilize a crossing at grade, there needing to be that level of comfort on top of safety for people to actually utilize it. So taking the time to think about streetscape improvements that make a street, a sidewalk, an intersection more pleasant to utilize for pedestrians.
Excellent. Thanks so much. That's great. Last group, Daryl.
Sure. Thanks, Martin. So we also had a great group. You can see by all the stickies, lots of comments. A lot focused on the pedestrian side. That was the core of the discussion at the beginning, and then we sort of moved into other things. So you can see on the stickies, a lot on the pedestrian bridge. The aesthetic is bad. It's cold. There's too much concrete. Thoughts about greening up the pedestrian plaza once you get to the west side over at Monroe. It's just all concrete. There's no greenery. There's no color. You know, some references to Crystal City and things that have been done over there to brighten things up, and some good ideas on that. As well as, you know, a thought of just everything should be level. And so there were a lot of talks about just all the different levels, and then sort of the idea came out with it. I think we've heard from some other groups of having sort of just an at-grade plaza, you know, decking over, or, you know, putting Maryland 355 under, but somehow getting just sort of straight across and not having all of this confined access point to the bridge itself. And then the discussion, you know, it transitioned from the design to, as we went over to the east side of thinking of the parking lot, and, you know, the scale of the parking lot in terms of, it seems large if you're trying to walk from the east side into the metro station. It's a vast lot to cross, but Lee and our group cautioned that, well, it's probably one of the smaller lots, so probably shouldn't talk too much about it being big. And that got into parking policy and what happens with parking. So I think there's a lot of concern expressed by the group of, should there be an emphasis on parking at all? And if there's a new parking structure put in place, it should probably be with less spaces than there are today. And the fact that the parking as a policy is cheap at $5 a day. And that, you know, whatever comes, it should be probably de-emphasizing access by car and using parking. That led to a lot of comments about the confusion, both for pedestrians and for drivers going in and out of the site. Drivers getting confused with going into bus lanes, or they want the park and ride and instead they end up in the kiss and ride, or vice versa. The bus congestion and how that hinders sight lines, even especially for pedestrians, because the buses are large and they're at so many different access points, and because of the congestion, they're parked and you can't see around them in order to cross the street safely. Talk about what to do with that parking lot, the types of uses if it was getting, you know, if there's true transit-oriented development, thoughts of office space, and a lot of comments about residential. Probably not a lot of emphasis for retail in the discussion, and just overall that Stone Street Avenue needs a redesign. That it doesn't, when you go from Stone Street into Park Road, that should feel like a gateway into Rockville, and it doesn't have that feel. They're just looking at street. So again, just lots of varied comments, all good stuff.
Excellent. Lots of great comments overall. So excellent. We'll keep moving here, but thank you to everybody, you know, on the call for sharing those thoughts, and those will definitely be recorded. Oh, do we have one more room?
These are the comments that have been coming up in the chat that I've been building up, so we can talk about these at the end.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, we just wanted to catch some of those other comments that people have, and we've been collecting them in a variety of ways. Okay, so let's see. So there we go. So these are just a snapshot of some of the things that we heard from some of those different groups. So the orange, the blue, the yellow, red, and green groups. And Jeff was able to sort of transcribe those for us just as a sample. But certainly what we'll do then is we'll take all of the comments from each of those boards and begin to put them into categories so that we have really an understanding of comments around pedestrians, around mobility access, around development, potentially Maryland 355, and we'll see what themes really emerge that have the most comments on them. But thank you again for all of that great input. So we're going to move on to our second exercise, and we will not go into breakout rooms for this, and we will not be unmuted. But basically, it's going to be a poll around some of the goals for the station study. So this one will be about 20 minutes, and you'll see we'll be able to end just on time here. It might go a little bit quicker than that. This is a pretty simple exercise. And so before we ask you to comment, we will read through some potential goals for the station and for this visioning exercise. If people have any questions about those goals, please do chat those to Jeff and he will comment and he'll bring those to us. And so basically, we're going to give you a list of goals here, 9 or 10 goals. And for the exercise, we want you to select the 3 most important goals. So just 3. You don't have to rank them 1, 2, or 3. You can just sort of click, click, click. You'll see that that'll come up in a few minutes after we read through what the goals for the station should be. I think we had really good luck on our first public meeting, and we were able to see a consensus come forward. So we'll see if today's group sort of comes close to what that first group had. So first, we'll take a look at the overall goals, and we're going to explain some of those with Daryl and Stephen and myself. So Daryl, you're going to start us off with number 1 and number 2. If you could just sort of mention what that goal is aiming to accomplish.
Yep. So goal number 1 is to strengthen connectivity between the east and the west sides of the station. So basically, ease of access from the one side of 350, the one side of the station on the tracks on the east side to the west side. The second one is to improve station accessibility and safety for walking and rolling modes of travel. So pedestrians, for bicycles, for scooters, for persons with disabilities using mobility devices, anything that requires feet or wheels that are to an individual.
Great. And then goals 3 and 4 are really related to economic development, real estate development. So for goal 3, thinking about the different types of mixed-use development opportunities that may emerge for the station area sites and can help sort of better connect it to the town center and other areas. This is thinking about opportunities for things like retail. I saw there was a comment in the chat about thinking about opportunities for neighborhood retail, or thinking about housing and how you can increase the housing supply around the station. Goal 4 is more related to jobs, and so how are we positioning Rockville for economic competitiveness, particularly around the station area and in a TOD environment relative to other locations throughout the region.
Okay, and then the next set of goals are all related to the transportation elements. So goal number 5 is about reducing traffic congestion that impacts bus operations. So in other words, all that traffic is slowing buses getting in and out of the station. So how can that traffic be reduced and improve bus access? Number 6 is to create a high quality multimodal transportation hub, making it much more comfortable, intuitive access, and really facilitate those connections that people are trying to make, whether they're coming in on commuter rail, the future bus rapid transit, the buses that are there today, to Metrorail. So that just makes it a nicer environment. And then goal number 7 is about reducing that parking footprint to accommodate, future parking needs through a more efficient, smaller footprint parking garage or garages.
Excellent, thank you. And the last 2 here, first one has to do with what is the future of that pedestrian bridge and how could we make that much more welcoming or reconfigure almost entirely. So goal number 8 really addresses specifically that pedestrian bridge. And then finally, number 9 is really about sort of creating an overall look and feel, which really is closer to being a gateway, not just some place where you arrive and you get to your next destination, but a gateway not only for the station, but for Rockville Place itself and for the downtown. Looking at station beautification, whether that's signage and public art, it's planting, natural features, the building design. Is there something much more sort of welcoming, embracing, and maybe even visually very, very beautiful and aesthetically pleasing for the station itself? So those are our 9 goals for the Rockville station. So you'll see that we're going to then put up a poll in just a second here. And we're going to ask you again to select 3 that you think are most important. And then we'll take a look at the results of that. So Jeff, is this the point that we go to the pop-up?
Yes, I'm going to send that out in just a second. One last comment is that for some people, I've been told that the screen pops up, doesn't have all of the text on the screen. So you might have to scroll down or expand your window. That's going to pop up on your screen in a second. The second comment is to select the 3 multiple choice that you like and then click submit. If you click submit, then that ends the voting for you. So make sure you select all the ones that you want first and then do that. So
bye. Wait, bye.
Okay, anyway,
Ready,
I will
Jeff?
launch the poll, yes.
Okay. So we'll leave this up for a couple minutes. So we're picking your top 3. We're going to give it another couple minutes. Okay, how are our numbers looking, Jeff?
We are already at 82% voted. This is, people are much more decisive than the last meeting this time.
Excellent.
We've had it open for just about 2 minutes. I suggest we give them just another minute.
Sure, absolutely. I'm going to play the Jeopardy music here.
Okay, I don't see any more votes coming in, so we will just give it another 10 seconds. If you haven't done it, do it now.
Exactly. The 82% represents not everyone is submitting. I think the consultant team in the city is not weighing in on this. So we want to hear from the general members of the public. So it looks stable, Jeff. Are we ready to move?
Yes, I believe that everyone who are all the guests have voted. So
okay. Let's see, you should be able to. Oh, so there's our results. Can you see those on my screen?
I do not, but if you would like to move to the next slide, I've posted the poll there.
I see. So there it is, right? Oops. Okay, so you know, what we're seeing here is that the one which is in red has the most.
I'll be filling this in while you talk.
What's that?
I said I'll be filling this in while you talk.
Okay, that's fine. So number 1 on there is create a high quality multimodal transportation hub with comfortable, intuitive access and connections between Metrorail, commuter rail bus, and future bus rapid transit. And that one is coming in at 66%. Number 2 after that is improved station accessibility for safety and walking and rolling modes of travel. So that's really those sort of smaller scale connections to the station itself, which is very close to the 66. So 66%, 63% on that second one. So that's great. Those are really the most sort of functional, you know, components for the station itself. And then in third place, it's really great to see sort of everyone, and this is also similar to the very first meeting that we had, in that people are looking for this opportunity for the station to be much more than just a station, for it really to be this sort of iconic gateway, beautification, the potential for public art and plantings for natural features, and make it much more of a gateway opportunity, welcoming building design and clear signage. So that's great. We've taken care of with 1 and 2, sort of the functional aspects of making sure it's the best sort of multimodal station that it could possibly be. And then secondly, making sure that people can get access to those various modes of transportation. I think that's great. It really aligns with the goals for the overall study, as well as then the great potential that the mayor sort of pointed out in the very beginning, and really reimagining and rethinking what the overall Rockville station could be for the future and how it can contribute more broadly. So thank you so much for that input. That was a pretty simple exercise, but it really does help us prioritize what we think sort of the main thrust of the overall study should be for the months ahead. We're just going to recap really quickly here. Those really 2 simple exercises that we went through. The first was our sticky note exercise, where we broke into a bunch of groups and we heard comments about the pedestrian access, around weather, the potential to think big, which is wonderful, the lighting opportunities, safety, accessibility, the bike infrastructure as well, the opportunity to perhaps add some greenery, to add some natural features to the station itself, and making sure that this gateway opportunity is really captured. So the top 3 goals that we just heard from you all, again, that multimodal transportation, we just went through those, the access to the station itself, and then the potential for it to become a gateway. So that's all really great input that's going to help us in the future phases of the project. So what do we do with these results? So basically, we're going to summarize all of those comments that you put onto the boards, and we're going to combine those with the first public meeting that we had on May 4th, again, to come up with the common themes and the most common observations for the station going forward into the future. And we'll let you know some of the data behind that, which just is to say how many people mentioned pedestrian safety, how many people mentioned safety for bicycles, specifics about the platform itself or the pedestrian bridge. And we'll show sort of the frequency of those comments and how they sort of helped us move, how they will help us move forward into the future. We're also going to take a look at the top 3 goals for each of the 2 public meetings, and we'll combine those together to hopefully arrive at sort of the top 4, 5, or 6 goals for the overall study. There was some alignment with the May 4th group, and there'll be some addition with today's public meeting. So that'll really help us sort of create then very specific goals for this study, as well as then the objectives. Together, those will be packaged into a vision statement for the project with very specific touch points for how we achieve the overall vision for this project. So Stephen, if you can help us out with some of these last few slides here for the basic overall study.
Yeah, so just in terms of next steps and sort of where we head from here, if you want to move to the next slide, and we mentioned the schedule at the top of the conversation, but just to remind you all sort of where we stand now in terms of having these visioning workshops today and where we're heading. We'll be, as Martin mentioned, sort of collecting all the information we heard, not only today, but also during our first session last week, to really outline what that vision statement is and present sort of a summary of what we've heard to the mayor and city council as part of a visioning presentation. We'll work on then using that information to develop our 3 site concepts and really begin evaluating them across a lot of the areas that we've talked about today, thinking about transportation, economic development, then just general sort of public placemaking and connectivity. We'll follow back up with you all for a concept review workshop. Again, that will be sort of later this summer, early fall. And you'll have an opportunity to review those concepts, provide additional input, thoughts, feedback, particularly in context of sort of the initial feedback that you heard here, and just making sure that everything that we really prioritize as part of these discussions is being carried through in those concepts. We'll review those concepts with the mayor and council, and then move forward with issuing a final report where we have one concept selected that we look to then move forward with WMATA and in coordination with the city and the county. Yeah, and aside from that, really want to just thank you all for taking part in making this workshop possible today. As you do have any additional questions or comments, please direct those to Clark Larson. He's the lead on the City of Rockville side. His email address is up here, and I think Jeff also just posted it in the chat. And we'll also have a copy of the meeting materials used today and sort of any future updates available on the City of Rockville's website. So you can feel free to check for updates there and see the latest on sort of where this work stands.
And I wanted to add one final comment that a lot of the comments that were mentioned in the chat through this whole, it's been a very lively chat discussion. I've added all of these to sticky notes on that final map. So I just wanted to let you know that they're all going to be incorporated and read through and considered. So they didn't just go off into the void.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. We know that we did receive emails after the last public meeting, which is great. And Clark was able to send those to us. And so we've incorporated any other comments that you may think of, later on today or tomorrow in the upcoming weeks. Do send those to Clark, and we'll be able to sort of pull all of those comments together that really inform what the future of the station area could be. So with that, we're basically at the end of our meeting here. I don't know, Clark, if you want to say any final words, or the mayor, just to sort of finish up. And we will then sort of move from there. So Clark, any last thoughts?
Well, nothing significant, but I would just say that I look forward to everyone's continued involvement in this process, and we will have other opportunities for public involvement and accepting your input and guidance on this issue, and just a really exciting project for the city.
Excellent. So with that, I believe that concludes our meeting for today. And we will continue to record all the good things that you chat into us. But other than that, thank you again from the whole consultant team, from HRA, VHB, Sasaki, WMATA, City of Rockville, for participating in this. Please have a great weekend. Enjoy the weather, and you will be hearing from us. And please do check into the website for updates on this overall project. So thank you, and have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great rest of the day.
Yeah, enjoy.
Thank you.